I'm so excited. The video is ready. My Emerging Summit that took place October of 2020 is ready for release. Our first one out. You've got to get your hands on it.
And that's when your crew comes in.
Come on, crew.
And say, I got you. I'm going to hold you up. I'm not going to let you fall.
And this one we focused on entrepreneurship. But let me tell you, it's all about building this tribe. I've gone through some things, I've made it through some things, and I know many other sisters that have held it down and did what they needed to do to get through.
So you don't have to decide what you need to do. You're going to discover some things today. I'm telling you, it's going to take your life to another dimension.
So we are inviting you to join us, be a part of us. Come and join us and check us out. Woo! Hi guys, guess who's coming to Table Talk with Laurie? Miss Deborah Grant. Mother, author, wife, believer, true testimonial woman. I'm telling you, she's coming to sit with me at Table Talk. She's going to come talk to us about the mind, how we got to control it, the thought process that we have, making sure we maintain control of it so it does not control us. April, third Saturday of the month from 11 to 12. She is an author of many books. She's a leader, she's a speaker, and we're so grateful to have her here. I can't believe she's coming to spend time with me. I'm a little nervous to talk with her, but I'm telling you, don't want to miss it. Be there on time. Now, see you soon. Peace. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Laurie's Table Talk. I think this is our fourth one. I'm a little nervous because I have somebody with me that I hold in high regard, that I honor her for who she is and how God has used her, and how, especially even in my life, that she don't even know. It's been a great relationship without me even getting to know her. But today she's with me and we're going to talk. We're talking to Mrs. Deborah Grant. That's who we're talking to, not Pastor Debbie Grant. And by the way, I need to share this real quick. I done found out that she don't really like Debbie. She likes Deborah. So as of today, for all of you all that's here and listening, please know that when you start calling her Deborah, you're going to bless her heart and make her happy. So I want to throw that out there. But this whole Table Talk with Laurie thing is taking place because I wrote a book. As my leaders go, so do I. And when I wrote the book, I was telling my story, and I knew I had a book in me. Actually, I had actually wrote one. It is from this to that. But when life happened, I switched up and I wrote this book, As My Leaders Go, Do I. So I needed to let people know how I got through what I was going through. And it's because I have people that I listen to. Deborah is someone that I listen to. When she opens her mouth, I listen and I do and I act. And it has just done nothing but done great things for me as I'm going and growing in life still today. So she's with us, but the R3 nonprofit, Recognize, Repair, and Repeat, is actually sponsoring us to have our chat today. So reach out, get ready, get you some notepads because we're just going to sit here and talk and welcome. Here she is. Thank you for being here with me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I'm so honored to be with you today, Laurie.
Oh, I'm telling you, wow, how do I even want to start this thing? Because, you know, it's easy with the folks I've had on so far. Dee Dee Cutler's friend, Tracy Stevens, friend, Freddie Cunningham, friend. And so I know them. And so today I really want people to get to know you, you know, because many of us that you'll even see in the names that show up that I can look at, they know you. But they know you as Pastor Debbie, doing what you do so well for us, honoring God in your life and sharing him with us. But I want them to meet, how did Deborah Grant get to pastor? Let's talk about that stuff. And yet at the same time, I want everybody to know that she is, and I hear echo, so I hope that's not for everybody. She is our keynote speaker for our upcoming conference, the My Emerging Summit, that takes place in October. October the third Saturday, just like we're doing these table talks, the third Saturday. We aren't sure of the place. We know we have it picked out, but we all know what's going on in the world. So it might be a hybrid, a little bit of in face and some online. Nonetheless, she's a keynote speaker and she's going to get deep into that mind thinking at that time. But today we're going to get to know her, right? And so you can see why she is the keynote speaker for me, okay? And you all will get it. So, first thing I want to talk about is not being Debbie. Just tell us real quick what it is for you to be Deborah. Because that's a biblical name. I know that too. So
Absolutely. Deborah is, first of all, I don't believe that we are named mistakenly. I really believe that. And I have a funny story about that, about how I was actually named. My mother shared this with me that at the time I was born, somebody was actually taking babies from the hospital. And several of the babies that were taken were named Denise. And she said she was really considering naming me Denise. And she said, we found this thing out that people were taking babies named Denise. And she said, oh no. She said, so I began to pray and I said, okay, God, I had Denise in mind, but what name do you have in mind? And she said, and she heard so clearly, Deborah. And, and I believe that, even in the Bible, we know the example that's been given, that people were given names to direct them and connect them to their destiny. And I believe that name has a lot to do with the course and the path and the destiny that I am on and I'm supposed to fulfill.
I love it. Somebody said, oh no, no more Pastor Debbie. But just know that, she'll know and give you much love when you call her Deborah, okay? But that's all this is that she's saying. So, Deborah, you and I have some similarities in life. I have actually been without my mother and father for a very long time. I've actually lived longer now without my parents than I lived with them. So I was like in my early 30s, late 20s. And I'm one of those ones, I don't have it recorded. I don't know the date and time, or any of that kind of stuff. And it's part of how I have had my healing throughout life. I always just think about the good memories of my parents. Yes. When I dream, my parents are living and hanging out with me, doing stuff, but they're healthy and whole. I never see them sick or any of that in my dreams. We're just hanging out, and I'm grown hanging out with them. And it's such a joy. And then I also have a brother that, we have similarities because he served several terms in prison consecutively. And when he finally seemingly was getting some things right, he had a job and he was at work. And he was on top of a scaffold on the McCormick Place building in Chicago, which is my home. And the rope snapped and he fell. And of course, upon, him falling, pretty much, he hit his head and he was gone. I just happened to be home in Chicago on recruiter's duty with the United States Marine Corps, which was 30 days. And so I remember being in the recruiter's office and, I got the phone call to come to the hospital. When I get to the hospital, I find out, my brother Donald, who has served, like I say, way too many years in prison, is now home and out and working, and now he's gone. And I remember shaking up and going, doing the typical little sister stuff that you would do when somebody's dead. And I'm standing there looking at him. And my father checked me. He said, you remember who you are. And at that time, I was standing there as a woman that was serving in the United States Marine Corps with my uniform on. And I immediately sucked it all up and got myself together. But instead of ministering with me anyway with the word of God, he found a thing that he knew I had become, that I was mindful of who that person is, that flipped me right back into, take a stand, stop all these baby crying tears, get yourself together. And he also hangs out with me in my dreams. So they're never like all together. There's single times that I spend with them. But I want you to talk about both of those at will. Let's talk a little bit about grieving, and because you lost your mom recently. So whatever order you want to go in, ma'am. And just talk to us about how mentally you're dealing with that and going through that. And yet let's talk about your brother and how you dealt with that as a little girl, like I did, obviously, of having a brother that was incarcerated and the thoughts and the ugly dreams, nightmares that I used to have about what was going on with my brother inside that prison, right? Let's be clear, I was young, but I was not stupid. I knew he was not in a safe place. So
Right.
talk to us a little bit about that. Grieving and having a brother that served in the prison system.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start with my brother. He and I were 4 years apart, and he stands 6'6"
Woo!
tall. I don't understand that at all. How I got the short end of the deal. Talk to God about that later. But we were always very close. My mom and dad raised us to be that way. We did everything as a family. We took family trips. We had family picnics. We had, all of the time we spent, a lot of time together. And so it was about in 1999 that he was arrested, and had to serve some time. But it was actually through him that I discovered the prophetic gifting that's on the inside of me and that's on my life. I would just have an innate ability to know when he was in trouble. It would be times when I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would just have dreams of him running or dreams of him, just ducking or moving or doing something that would let me know that he was in an unsafe environment. And I would wake up and I would begin to pray. And of course, I'd get up and go to his room and he wasn't there. And I would realize that he hadn't come home. And then, for a while I would ignore it. I would kind of just do what I did. And then eventually, as time would go on, I would do it again. It would happen again. And then I started sharing with him. I said, okay, are you in trouble? Are you going through something? I'm continuously having dreams about you. And he would say, when did you have a dream? And I would say, it was here. And what did you see? And then he would actually confirm that the things that I was seeing, the things that I was seeing in my dreams, the things that I was praying about were actually taking place just as I was seeing them. And even up into the time of his incarceration, I had a dream that I saw police officers knocking at my mother's door. And it was sort of like a split screen, sort of like we have here. And then in another part of the dream, I saw a young lady on the phone, in the phone booth. We used to have telephone booths back in the day. And I saw a young lady in the telephone booth. And in the dream, he went out the back door of my mother's house. And so this dream, I woke up with such an urgency, almost like in a panic. And I began to pray and ask God about it. And so when he did come home, I mentioned it to him and I said, hey, this was, really serious in my dream. I woke up and I couldn't tell about, how you're in a dream and you can't tell if your body does not know. It's live or Memorex. Your body is actually experiencing, you're sweating, you're panting, and this was so real. And I've kind of learned that over time, whenever God is communicating a message to you through dreams and visions, he makes it so vivid. He makes it crystal clear. There are specific details that you will remember that will stand out. It's not like a passive type of thing where you're trying to remember and piece stuff together. These type of dreams are very vivid, very plain, very clear. You remember the details of it. And so I began to share with him. I said, hey, whatever you're involved in, whatever's going on, I need you to really, make some wise choices and decisions, because I saw police officers come to mom's door. I saw this person on the phone. I don't know what that had to do with the dream. Anyway, fast forward some months later, while I was there at the house, police officers were knocking at the door. He went out of the back door. And over a period of time, we discovered he'd had a drug addiction and he had actually checked himself into a rehab and was doing quite well. But how many know when you sow seeds, there's still often consequences, even after you change your mind, even after you make a decision and you decide to go on a different course. Some of the seeds you've sown are still going to come up, and you've got to deal with the seeds that you sown in a previous season. And so, even though he was doing well and, he was doing good, he was trying to get himself together, he had sown some other seeds in another season. And we didn't find out later until we were at the court proceedings that this particular young lady was the one who made the phone call to, after they had broken up, to call, tell the police what had happened. And so that's why I was seeing her in the phone booth. So I give him credit for perfecting my prophetic prophetic gift, because I really prayed so much for him and for God's protection, because I know there's a call of God on his life. And I know there's something that he's uniquely supposed to do. And the enemy's not fighting us. He's fighting what's on us. But he's doing well now. He's working. He's working for Amazon, delivering package. He's doing wonderful. And so to God be all the glory. I'm so excited that he served a 20-year sentence, but he didn't allow bitterness to get in his heart. When we would go visit him, he would be encouraging us. You know, he was ministering to the guys there in prison. He would watch the broadcast. Thank God our ministry has a prison outreach, and he was able to minister to them and still get the word, and still he knew how to pray in this heavenly language. So it was so many things that God developed in him in that time. And so I believe that he is a better person, not because of what happened, but how he chose to respond to what has happened.
And before you talk about your mom,
yes,
let me just throw some, because when you just said Amazon, that's actually one of the businesses I tried to get into. They wouldn't let me in. I assumed because I was not going to run it, I was just going to obtain it and then let somebody else run it. But just to hear about the fact he served 20 years, right? And now he has such freedom where he's out and about, driving around, out enjoying the weather, the air. I mean, that's like an added plus to me to hear him doing that work.
yes,
As opposed to just having a job and you're in a warehouse and he's out enjoying. He can see and hear the birds chirping I mean, glory to God. That's awesome in itself. Yeah, because for 20 years he didn't get none of that.
Absolutely. He didn't get any of that. And sometimes people come out, and I of course believe that he was given more time than what the crime deemed. He didn't have any weapons. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't shoot anybody. He didn't, it was really what he was doing to himself. But unfortunately, the system doesn't always work in our favor.
Yeah, in our favor is well said, man.
Absolutely. And he had to manage the hand that he was dealt. He opened the door to some things. And so we can't always predict the consequences and the harvest that we receive from the seeds that we sow. I just thank God he didn't get involved in any other religions. He didn't get confused about who he was. He didn't because, sometimes drugs are even available in prison. He didn't get back on and become a user. And so God kept him. We prayed for him. And I thank God that he maintained who he was before he went in and before the drug addiction. And now he's clean. He's sober. He's doing well. He loves God. And he got to spend time with my mom before she transitioned. So I'm so grateful.
And so before we even get to I'm going to go back to some gifts. We're going to get back to that. But let's talk about your mom on that note, just what you just said, because your mother was able to see her son come out and rejoin the world with the rest of us. So talk about that.
Yeah. So if you saw the big smile come on my face when you said my mom, I'm telling you, that's my girl. That was my girl. And really next to my husband, that was my BFF. We did everything together. We did lunches at least 2 or 3 times a week. We went shopping.
Wow.
We just, she was just a family person. My dad passed away in 1992. And my mom came to live with us somewhere around 1996 or so, whatever. And she lived with us for many, many years, almost 22 years or something. And she was a part of our household. She was in my house. I didn't have to go visit her. She was here. And she helped me raise my kids when they were babies, and ministry and my career. I was doing hair at the time, and in the hours that sometimes you can be in the salon and then you leave the salon and now you're in ministry and you go to serve in ministry. And so oftentimes she would bathe my kids, put them in the bed. And I didn't have a care or concern in the world. She was just my right hand and my rock. And so, but over the years, as she began to get older, pretty much the last 4 years, let me rewind. I had started having, and I have a lot of dreams. That's just the way God deals with me. I started having a lot of dreams about it was time for me to leave the hair salons, time to really get in full throttle of ministry. And I, of course, shared it with my pastor, Dr. Mike and Dr. Didi, and they were fully on board. They said, hey, we agree. This is the time. This is the season. You're right on it, you know. And then, of course, I consulted with my husband as my, you know, my leader. And he said, listen, I got you. I just want you to obey God. You pursue God, and I got this household. And so I began to pray, and I asked God to give him my salary. Another story, and all I can say is God superseded that, and so that was a blessing in and of itself. But I thought when I initially came home that I was coming home to go right into doing, you know, the broadcast, my podcast, my books, all of that. But it ended up being a caretaking season for my mom, which I didn't know was coming. And over that period of about 4 years, you know, her health began to decline somewhat. She's such a fighter. She didn't really care what the doctors would say, what the tests would say. She would leave out of there and they would say something, you know, like, you got a block. And she's like, okay, so what does that mean? And just continue. Like they just couldn't understand. But she would say this. She said, I don't care what my diagnosis is. I'm not going anywhere until my son comes home and I spend quality time with him.
Oh, come on.
Vision will keep you alive.
Yes.
And she had that vision. And I'm telling you, when he came home, he just kind of pushed me out the way. Like, I got it. I'm making breakfast. I'm fixing lunch. I'm taking her to the store. You know, he just wanted to get in, and like you carried it for this 20 years while I was incarcerated. I got it. Could you let me have it? But this is my girl. So I'm like, dude, back up, dude. You don't know what you're doing. But, you know, it was just the joy of watching him serve her and take care of her and just spend time with her, sit in her room and watch TV with her. No, I mean, God it was almost like he compressed those 20 years into that year and a half that she was here with him. And so I'm just so grateful for that. But of course, when she transitioned, it just took us by surprise, because that morning I got up, I fixed her breakfast. I did everything, you know, normally that you do. But the night before, I had bought a baby monitor to put in her room because we had just moved into our new home. October 1st, we had just moved into our new home. And we bought this home with my mom in mind, right? I always wanted to have 2 master bedrooms on the first level, so she wouldn't have to go up and down the steps.
Of course,
right?
That makes sense.
I wanted her to have access to the kitchen and the family room and wherever, just to be able to go wherever she wanted to go without.
Y'all don't miss the fact she said 2 master bedrooms on the first floor. Again, we around people. I hang with people that got my ass. Okay, did you hear us say 2 master bedrooms on the first floor? Okay, go right ahead, Pat.
And so I wanted her, you know, this is actually our 3rd home. And I always wanted a deck. Every house we've had beautiful homes, but this house has a wonderful, big, large deck patio. I just saw my mother sitting out there on, you know, it would be her version of a porch, sitting out there. Well, 6 days later, she decides to check out. But the night before, I had bought a baby monitor, and I said, I want to put this in a room because our room is at the end of the hall and her room is all the way at the other end of the house. And so I said, I want to be able to hear her if she needs something. So we bought this baby monitor and we put it in her room, and I said, hey, if you need something, just say our name, anybody, we're gonna come running, you know, don't try to get it, whatever you need. So the night before she transitioned, my husband and I are in my room, and we hear her singing through the baby monitor. Now, in the house that we had just moved from, my mother's room was like right outside of my husband and I's room. I've never heard my mother sing. Never heard her sing.
Is there something?
She never thought she could sing. She never tried to sing. She would admire others who could sing. This particular night, she's in there just singing. And when I tell you, it was so beautiful.
So she was getting it in.
Yes. When we turned the TV down, we both were like, is that Nanny? We called her Nanny. We're like, is that Nanny singing? And he said, I think it is. And I said, oh my God. So now I'm going to go be nosy and I'm going to go down the hallway to see what's going on. So I go in her room and she said, I said, oh my God, you sound so beautiful. You're in here singing. She said, oh, you know, I forgot y'all got that monitor in here.
I'm minding my business. I'm sitting here thinking I'm all by
in my
myself.
business, peeping in my room, 85 years old, right? She said, no, sweetie, I was just saying my prayers. I said, well, those were the most beautiful sung prayers that I've ever heard. And I said, it was so beautiful, Mom. And she said, I didn't mean to wake you. I said, no, it was just a beautiful sound to hear you singing. So the next morning I went in. I fixed her breakfast. I propped her little pillow up. I turned the TV on for her. You know, morning as usual. Around 10 o'clock, I heard her say, help, help, help. But my mother would say help if she wanted a soda out the refrigerator.
Okay,
so her help, her help was, can you turn this? Can you find family TV? That's her help, right?
Right.
We didn't think anything of it. So my brother went down and, you know, just that fast she couldn't talk. Just that fast she was making her transition. But she was sitting there just as calm, just smiling. And we're like, hello, can you hear us? Are you okay? And so now I'm saying call 911, this kind of thing. And when I tell you it was the most gangster transition that you have ever seen, it was just, she was just calm. And that's why the doctor was like, well, she couldn't have had a heart attack because she'd have been grabbing her heart or she'd have been in pain or she'd have been coughing. She was just sitting there like
good morning.
And just, I mean, it was just
I
amazing.
love it.
Just love, but we were taught that way. We were taught that you have the authority to say where you want to go. You don't have to be evicted out of your body. You don't have to allow sickness and disease to kick you out of your body. You can say with authority as a believer when you want to go home. And I'm telling you, she did it, and she did it with finesse. And I'm just so enamored. I just admire her strength. And then, but let me tell you how classy she was. She wouldn't transition all the way till she got to the hospital. She said, no, I ain't gonna go in the house because I don't want them you tripping because I'm in this room. That's how she thinks. Because even when she left, she was still alive and they took her to the hospital. But I could tell by the look on her face, like, I'm out, you know. And so I thank God for that. And it was just the most, but I've gone, of course, I have days when it's just awful. You know, days when I just cry. And then days when I just can think of certain things and I just laugh and it brings joy. And so you're going to have both of those days. You're going to have all of those times and it's real and you have to allow yourself to grieve, but you don't stay there. That's what's up right there. Yeah, you can't stay there. And then what really ministered to me, Laurie, was the Holy Spirit began to tell me, be happy for her. If you'll just stop focusing on how you feel and your absence and what you're going through and switch to remember her singing the night before. Maybe she got a glimpse. Maybe she saw an angel. Maybe she I was just thinking that she was hanging out with some angels. But heaven is real. And the presence of God is real. Angelic beings are real. Something made her sing the night before she transitioned. So I just remember that happy place. And I'm so happy for her to be in the presence of God. No more canes, no more walkers, no more, all of the medicine and whatever. She was like, she don't need any of that. And there are times when I'm even in the store and I'll go past certain things that I knew I used to buy. And I'll be tempted to be like, ooh. And God will say, she don't need that no more. She don't need that. She don't need that. It switches your focus. Yes. So you have to switch your focus and that'll pull you out of a place of grief.
I love it. What a great story, though. Gangster mom. I ain't mad. I love it. You're from Chicago. Like a gangster. I love it. People are too. They are making all kinds of comments, and I'm hearing that beautiful transition with finesse. Yes. That's it, and that's exactly what you were saying. And Miss Teresa talking about she gonna get a baby monitor in faith. I'll tell you that now. That's what's up, though, and the fact that you're leaning in and saying mentally, we have to reset our minds to the fact of remembering they've gone on to glory. They're in a better place, and get over our own little personal pity parties that we could have. Yes, that's outstanding. And if they could change places, they wouldn't. I hate to let people know that if they were given that option. After you see and behold, think about everything beautiful that we love here
is only a piece of what's there. If we think about Dubai and we think about Hawaii and we think about the most beautiful places on the earth, heaven's streets are made of gold. Like the gates are made of pearls. Like what is on the
What
mind of
makes you
God?
think that they want to come hang out with us? Right?
Why would they want to come back here?
Yeah, I got to pick back on one thing though. Like my mom, as far as somebody even keyed in and noticed that you're saying vision will give you life, right? It was
Yeah.
something in that nature that you said because when my mother would slowly die, and I was still in the Marine Corps. I had to leave Hawaii because they wouldn't release her to come there. So I relocated back. They gave me a duty station in North Carolina, and I went straight from Hawaii to Chicago. And I picked up my mom, packed her up what was left that was there because the government packed most of her stuff, and relocated her to North Carolina to be with me. She lived with me for 4 months approximately before she passed on. And it's her younger brothers that said to me, he said, Laurie, for the past year and a half, your mother was saying, I'm waiting on my daughter to come get me.
Wow.
And, well, I'm not trying to get emotional because that was a long time ago a thought. But I remember him sitting with me and having that face to face because once I got here and had her, she only had 4 months that she gave me. But was it a special 4 months? Yes. Did I become mom? Yes. Mom, now you ain't got no business eating on no bacon and
Oh
asking
my
me for some
God, the
ice
roles
cream with
change,
that
don't
diabetes. And she looked at me one time, Deborah. She said, girl, you better remember who the mama is.
they?
I was like, and I
Yeah,
was getting fussier and fussy because I wanted her to live, right? I'm thinking, let me just
absolutely.
take care of you and bring you out of this stump that you've been in. But
Yes,
bottom line, I had to receive, but I have great memories of that. But
that's
that's
beautiful.
awesome. And I see someone, you two women cut down them trees so we can walk on the steps. So you have cleared the forest so we can see our way. All right,
Praise
Gigi.
God.
And that's what we're here to talk about is
Yes,
the mind, and yet at the same time, we gotta live out this life.
yes,
I want to bring Deborah to the corporate side of who I am. Yes, I love God, and everybody know I'm a Christian. If you spend 5 minutes with me, you're gonna find that out. But the bottom line is, I live in this crazy world that I live in, and I
that's right.
still have to operate under these biblical principles. But one thing before we switch over to the gifts, think about what you're thinking about. Do you know where I
Mm.
got that from?
Yes, I say that a lot. I say that a lot. Yeah,
Talk about it a little bit.
because our thoughts, our life will follow our thoughts. And a lot of times the enemy will use, and not just the enemy, but TV, media, television, the news. Those
Yes.
thoughts, if we don't examine the source of the thought that has entered into our mind, we will take hold of a thought and we'll begin to meditate on it and meditate. And meditation is actually something that was given to us from the Word of God, so that the Spirit of God can create and paint pictures on the canvas of our imagination, so
Mm-hmm.
that we're designed to move towards our most dominant thoughts. And what we
Mm.
know, the enemy always perverts whatever God gives us to use authentically. And
Yes.
so we have to think about what it is we're thinking about. Pastor Mike always says that whatever you focus on is going to expand. It's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger and it's going to get
Yes.
bigger. And the bigger it gets, the more you focus on it, you're going to be consumed by whatever it is that you're focusing on. And that's good or bad. So you got to
Yes.
think about, what is it that I've been thinking about?
That's good because when I think about the lesbian lifestyle I had, where I've just turned my life all into, I'm the number one dude, and I'll take your wife from you attitude. I mean, I was raw. I wasn't mean in my intentions, but I was comfortable and secure in who I was.
Yeah.
And I had become that person because that's what I was thinking about. I was
Yes.
meditating on it. I desired it. And the Marine Corps gave me what I needed. My brothers and them gave me what I needed. So I figured, I was born this way. This is who I am. And, coming over and being a part of Spirit of Faith, one of the most amazing things Pastor said one time that I had to just sit there and grab was, he said, all you're doing is acting. Instead of acting like a dude, why don't you act like a lady?
You're right.
I walk that thing through my head on a daily basis still
Yeah.
today. And that was at least maybe, good 10 years ago that he made that statement. And now I make myself, sometimes when I'm walking, I can feel that little toughness. And I was switching up and I was like, oh, some dude looking at me. I was sitting on my little switch because I had trained myself through my mind to be a
Wow.
certain way,
Yes.
and I was living it out at the max. I was bad at it. Like, people gave me. It was just a mess when I think about it now. I have people now today that'll see picture of me when I was living that life, especially when I was on stage performing, and they go, "Lord, you sure was fine." I say, "Mm-hmm, that was the problem."
Right.
That was part of the problem, that I was good looking even in that image
Yeah.
that I had made myself
Yeah.
become.
Yeah.
Another area though, we both wrote books. I wrote one. You got a plethora. I wrote one book,
I love
and
your book.
I have several to come. And when I wrote it, I actually gave it to you. But I wrote that book because I went through something, and I wanted people to see how I got through it, and that it matters who you hang around, who you spend your time, who are you listening to. And it was Pastor Dwayne that told me, Laurie, don't say where my pastors go, because Pastor said to us all the time, he'll decree and declare, as I go, so shall you. So
Yeah.
that's really the heart of that book, right? Because I'm like living this life that is still, I can pinch myself, that's amazing. And it's following behind who Pastor Mike and Dr. Dee has been before me. And yet all of the ministerial leaders for that matter. So that book writing, people are like, Laurie, you need to do this. I was like, no. What came to me, God gave me, have a conference. Hence the Mind Merging Summit. That's how we landed here. Now, my story of writing my book is because now ex-husband came after me once I started having success, wanting to have a persistence of the business. He wanted me to pay alimony. He wanted a house. He wanted a car. And he wanted the Tempur-Pedic mattress. Let me leave that Tempur-Pedic mattress out. I sleep on still today, mighty comfortably, may I add. Well, tell us a little bit about your books. Because I know you've wrote many, but if you can kind of just go through them and say, I wrote this book because. I wrote this book because. Because we want to encourage people, that we all have had some experiences. And what comes out of writing, it's not about the selling of the book, it's the blessing of just getting it out on paper that I know I received. So if you could talk a little bit about that, since you have several.
Praise God. So the first book that I wrote is called Have You Prayed for Your Pastor Lately?
Mm.
This was the very first book I wrote. And I started to notice somewhat of a pattern with me, that I was often praying for leadership. Um,
Mm.
I would watch a lot of different teaching ministries on television. My mom, we grew up watching Dr. Price. She used to like
Okay.
Jay Swagger, Kenneth Copeland, and so we would watch them. And so I would find that a lot of times when the broadcast would go off, I would find myself praying for the pastor, praying for the teacher, praying for whoever it was I was just seeing. And I kept saying, God, what is this? Why do I have such an affinity to pray for leadership or pastors? And one particular day I was attending a Bible study. Dr. Didi would always come and grab me after work. We worked in the salon together and take me to different meetings, Bible studies and things. And so I went to this one particular Bible study, and I'm walking out. The Bible study is over. I went to shake hands with the pastor. The pastor fell on his knees in front of me and lifted his
Mm.
hands up and put his head down. And I'm standing there and I'm like, what is he doing? Like, oh my God. And so whomever was standing beside me was like, he wants you to pray for him. And I just remember putting my hand on his head and just beginning to pray for him. And I said, oh my God. And he got up, he said, thank you, I received. I went to another service, invited with a friend. She calls me up at the end of the service. This is like a full church service. And she said, God said, you're supposed to pray for the pastors that are here. I come up to the
Oh
front, I
my
get the
goodness.
mic, I begin to pray for pastors. It was bishops, it was
Oh
all
my
kind of
goodness.
pastors that were there at this particular meeting. I began to pray for them. I go to California to Dr. Price's ministers
Yes,
conference.
yes.
I see a woman of God that I just so admired, Dr. Claudette Copeland, and I used to love to watch Dr. Copeland on TV teaching. And so I'm saying to my husband, I want to go take a picture. I want to go take a picture. So I go over there. I said, Dr.
You're having a
Copeland,
celebrity moment.
yes, it's a celebrity moment. And I go over to her. I said, I would love to take a picture. She said, absolutely. And so she put her arm around me, and we take the picture. And I said, thank you so much. And then as I'm walking away, she said, hey. She said, pray for us. And so now this has happened so many times. So I'm starting to finally put pieces together. And then Pastor Mike says, I want you to meet Dr. Price's lead intercessor, Dr. Jean Perez. I want you all to connect. And so I had her book too. I wanted to meet her. So I go up and I'm talking to her, and I said, oh, I have your book. It's so nice to finally meet you. And she turns to me, she said, and God says, where's your book? You're supposed to be writing a book on prayer. Where's your book? And I said, oh, well, I really have to get busy with doing that, right? And so I said, okay. So you know how you hear something, you kind of, you hear it and you know that. And so one morning, I'm going to fast forward through this story. One morning, my mom and I, we're in IHOP or somewhere. We're having breakfast. Young man walks in the IHOP, and he comes over. He speaks to us, and he was a partner of the ministry, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And he said, "Okay, I don't want to disturb you and your mom from having breakfast. I just wanted to come over and say hello." So he walks out, and I said, "Okay, goodbye." So my mom and I go back to to conversing at the table. About 5 minutes later, he comes back in the IHOP. He comes over to me. He said, "I'm so sorry to disturb you all again." He said, "But I got in my car, and the Spirit of God told me to come back in and ask you to please write the book. Please write the book." Yeah. So at that point, I was like, "Okay, God, I give up." So that's where this book came from. And I had written several prayers, and I had a young lady who just typed it and did all the things for me. So that's where this book came from. Have you prayed for your pastor lately? Because a lot of times when people in leadership, we think they don't need prayer. But when you're on the front lines of anything, you're the first one to get hit when the enemy launches an attack.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so they need prayer. So that was birthed out of that. And then my next book was called Arise and Declare the Word. And this is because there's a prophetic anointing on my life. A prophet will always give you something to say. A prophet will always give you something to confess. A prophet will always give you something to declare. And so I wanted to write this book because you hear so many people making negative confessions about, if it ain't one thing, it's another.
Yes.
Bad luck comes in threes and whatever, all kind of things. And so if we would just arise, and this word arise means to change your posture, change your position, and declare what God's word has said about your situation. And so that's where this book was birthed out of. And this is actually one of my favorites.
And I need to get that one. I don't have that one.
And it's yours. I promise you.
Yes, ma'am. That one I need.
Get that. I will definitely sow that seed into your life.
Thank you.
This book was the third book. This book, Powerful People Praying Together. This book talks about the power of agreement. A lot of times when we're in certain situations, the enemy wants us to isolate ourselves and hide and not tell anybody that we're going through. And he wants us to be ashamed. He wants us to go get in a corner and curl up and have a pity party. But this book is talking about the story about Peter when Peter was in prison and he was locked up, and the church came together and interceded on his behalf. And there was such a power and agreement, and how their agreement caused the prison doors to be open. And so this book is talking about the power of the prayer of agreement.
And let me jump in, because Freddie and I talked about that last month, because we're talking about how we have to support each other, this tribe that I'm building. Like, I know it's not for everybody, but at the same time, for those of us that's really got something on us and we want to be fulfilled in our life and do what God has called us to do, this is a good spot for women, because we openly are talking in private about some stuff. And so that's, if you all don't get no book, get that one, because it matters, if whether or not you got people that support you. And I love it. What was the title of that one again?
That one is Powerful People Praying Together.
Yes,
we're so powerful. We're powerful, of course, individually, but we're so much more powerful together.
All day.
And I love the fact that you're gathering people in causing us to pool our resources and pool our giftings together so that we can make greater impact. And I thank God for that. And this one is fasting 101. You know, we don't like to fast. We don't like to talk about fasting, but fasting is a tool that gives us the winning edge. It gives us the advantage. It gives us a running head start. And so this book is just a few nuggets that I've received about fasting and how it helps you and how it brings breakthrough and deliverance, how it improves your focus. It eliminates distractions. It improves your health. It does so many things. And so this is just some nuggets on fasting to help you have a guide. And I actually have a fifth book that's in print right now. It should be here in about 2 months, and it's called "What Do You Expect?" What do you expect? Because if you don't expect anything, then you're gonna have just that. And so it talks about the power of expectation, and it's a 31 day daily devotional to read to keep your expectancy up.
You know, I knew that, okay, because we've done really well with an hour on this show, and I knew, I said, I'm going to need more than an hour, and it's showing itself, because it's 11:48, and I hate the fact that my time's going to be winding down. Y'all make sure you all put your names in the chat if you want to be awarded the conference, the My Emergent Summit conference that took place last year, which was kind of focused mostly on entrepreneurship, but a lot of different people participated, and we were all prepping and getting ready for Deborah Grant to be our keynote speaker October of 2021. So make sure you watch that and check it out and put your name in the chat so you can win it free today, because we're giving it out. Okay, I want to just go back on something with the mind before we get to the gifts. And that was that I'm doing the noon. And I just got curious because I don't watch a lot of TV, first of all. I mean, it's on and I'm listening. That's more kind of how I do TV. Because I'm a businesswoman, and let me be clear, you can't be a businesswoman without being busy. Okay, so I always got something going on. But nonetheless, the noon is all about the mind. They had the nerve, and I'm always talking about the little, and I feel like I'm aging myself. I remember the cartoon where it had the little devil and the angel, you know, and it was like this fun thing to watch as a kid growing up. But I've learned that that is our life every single day.
Yeah.
God is always talking. The enemy is always talking. It's all about who are you listening to,
Absolutely.
right? In the end, and the choice that you end up making out of that. But the noon is about that. I saw a picture just this morning while I was working out. And the picture came up and they were talking about the decisions that you make. And I'll be doggone, they didn't have the little devil on one shirt. I just fell out laughing. I said, I got to bring this up today. So I don't know if anybody, I'm not promoting the noon, but I can tell you it is a good process of getting your mind right. And I can be a little dangerous to myself because I'm a fitness girl. I'm athletic, you know, like your husband has done a lot of things with athleticism all my life. So I've gotten to 60 years of age and things are like a little different. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can learn some new tricks. The stuff in the past ain't working no more. All right, so where are you from? Let's talk about that real quick before we get into the gifts. Where are you from, Deborah?
I was born and raised in Capitol Heights, Maryland. I lived there for the entire time. I didn't move out until I was 24 and I was getting married.
Oh, Capitol Heights, Maryland. And so that's like how many minutes from D.C.?
Maybe
but that's
20.
close, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe 20.
Yeah, that's close to D.C.
Yeah.
For those that's not in the area, because I got some people in here that don't live in the D.C. metropolitan area. They're like, Capitol Heights. Okay, just to give you she's close to the
Prince
little
George's
big
County.
Prince George's County, Maryland.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little about the gifts, you know, because we all have our own gift. You know, share with us, you know, what your thoughts are about identifying them, things that we can do to help identify them, even to the point that you are your wonderful wife and mother, because I know that because you share that with us a lot in your stories that you tell us about you and your family, but you have your kids. And so how are you even nurturing that whole gift in their life, you know, as a mom and pulling that out of them? Talk to us about that.
Yes. Your gift is really something God has given you, but it's not just for you, it's for others.
Key.
Sometimes people go an entire lifetime pursuing a career or a job, but never discovering their gift. Gifts have to be discovered. They're locked up on the inside of you. It's the seed that God puts on the inside of you. When you are born, you have it, and you have to discover it. That's why you don't have time to be hating on anybody else. You don't have time to be doing all these other things, because your life's pursuit should be discovering why you're here, and who the you that God knows. Discovering who you are, becoming who you are. And so I often encourage parents, because I'm always looking at the traits and the characteristics that are in my children, so I can help nurture and develop them. You know, I think about when I was a child, how I was so extra sensitive, how I could overhear conversations and it would make me cry and it would make me weep. How when other people would be mad at people, I would always try to bring about something good about the individual for that person to focus on. I didn't have an idea that I had the gift of mercy. I didn't have an idea that I was an intercessor. I just thought I was just super sensitive. You know, she cried too much. She's just so easily offended. She's so sensitive. But that sensitivity was placed on the inside of me so that I could be aware of who I'm around. I can sense now when someone is hurting, when someone is beside me and their stomach hurts, or they're in pain, or they're grieving. I can sense that. But if that had never been developed, if that had never been acknowledged or discovered, I probably would just be taking medicine to control it, not realizing it's something that God put in me to help other people.
That's good.
You have to really pay attention to your children. You have to listen to them. You have to let them talk sometimes, because sometimes, you know, when we grew up, you know, our parents say, be quiet, you shut your mouth, you know, and we got to let our kids.
Grown folks talking.
This grown folks talk. Don't start smelling yourself. Don't get frisky. That was the word my mother used to use. Don't get frisky now. So, but we have to allow our children to talk, let them express who they are, so that we can nurture it and guide it, because that is a gift on the inside of them. Sometimes that talkative child that just won't be quiet in the classroom is supposed to be a CEO leading boardroom discussions. Sometimes that child is just stuck on that computer. They may have an IT solution that's going to bring billions to their life and answers and solutions. You know, that child is always silly and being funny. Hey, they may be the next Eddie Murphy or the next Tiffany Haddish, whomever. We have to find out who it is that we've been given the privilege to raise. And once we find out who we've been given the privilege to raise, yes, we have to release them. We raise them so we can release the gift. But if we smother it, and if we crush it, and if we cancel it, we limit the expression of God that He was supposed to bring through our child.
That the privilege, because you're right, you know, because we're all born with our gift. And so you as a parent has a responsibility, right?
It's a responsibility.
I know we just got finished talking about family over at Spirit of Faith. And one of the things that I remember seeing that you and your husband, specifically Donald Graham, was clear. There's a difference between parenting and being a parent, I think was the difference.
Yes.
And just real quick, hit that, because, you know, some people, you know, they got grown kids and they still talking about my baby. Yeah, since my parents have been gone for so long, for me, I'm looking at them and I don't have kids. I'm looking at them like, you know, that ain't right. So I found out it's not right. Can you talk about that? Because I got some mamas on here. I see some of these babies.
Yes, and I have adult children. I mean, and that sounds funny, adult children, but that's what they are. You're a parent for life, but there is a season for your parenting. There's a season for that. I have a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 15-year-old. And so the things that I'm now sharing with my 15-year-old, I have already shared with my 23 and my 21-year-old. So now I'm taking on a different role and position and posture in their lives, my older two, because now they are considered by the world standard an adult. You can call them a child and your baby all you want, but we're seeing every day on the news that they are treating 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds when they do certain things. They are treating them and governing them as an adult. So we're not raising them to stay our children. We're raising them to be adults and productive citizens and contributing citizens to society. We're raising somebody's husband. We're raising somebody's pastor, maybe. We're raising someone's supervisor, you know, an
Come
owner of a
on.
company. We're raising these young people to become who they are. And so that's so important, and that we maximize the seasons that we're in when they're small. That's why you can't be all going all over the world when you got little kids, because they're going to miss out on some of the impartations and things
That's
that you're
good.
supposed to teach and model before them. And if you aren't modeling it, they are seeing another model. And they've been trained to follow after the model that's most dominant in their life. So yes, we have that season that we have to parent, and then we have a season when that parenting season is over, and now we move into advising, counseling, you know, suggesting, and suggesting with emphasis.
Exactly. I think you did.
But when
This
you
has been
establish
great.
that good relationship, you always have their ear, because you've taught them to honor you, so they still give weight to your voice, which is a good thing.
Yes, yes, and yes. Our time is up, and I'm angry a little bit because I knew, I was like, this was going to be tough, because there's so much about getting to know you, to know how you are in your natural state of being, but yet at the same time have been able to bless so many others. I'm telling you guys, I didn't even get into that because I wanted her to talk, but she has blessed my life in so many ways, because when she speaks, I apply it and I receive. And I'm living out some stuff today that is, I'm about to buy a house in Escondido, California, San Diego, over $1 million house. I'm
Beautiful.
telling you, when
Beautiful.
I hear Pastor Mike, Dr. E talking about them buying their homes in Bahamas and their love for it, well, guess what? My love has been San Diego. So the fact that I'm about to buy a house in a place I love to be,
I
I
love
said,
it.
this As My Leaders Go, So Do I is for real.
I love it.
It's what's up. And so
Yes.
people really address your life and look at how you're living it, and think about what you can change to make it better, because it really is on you. So let's go ahead and spin that wheel and find out who won the freebie, so that you all can get prepared for Miss Deborah Grant in October. If you see the one we did last year, it'll help you. Okay, let's go. This is too fun. I love how y'all do this. May the wheels spin. And the winner is Miss Renee Williams. Let's give her a shout out, give her some hearts or whatever. Go on, Renee. And we look forward to seeing you at the next table talk with Laurie. I love you all. Let's say bye to Miss Deborah. Give us some love. Give us some love.
Thank you, Laurie. It was an honor.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye.